She comes from Word of Faith. I come from Pentecostal Apostolic tradition. You see there's differences there, right? Doctrinally, there are differences there. So we made the decision that we were going to unlearn certain things and relearn new things to have a new perspective, a new concept and idea. So, as it relates to a system of submission, as men, it is our responsibility to be the head of the home. Is that correct?
Yes.
But the problem is, it is assumed that because we're the head of the homes and we're the leaders of the homes, that we're supposed to know everything and we're supposed to do everything. And that's just not the case. So what I want to do is give you a comparative analysis and compare the husband as the head of the home to the President of the United States, who is the head of the nation. Okay? So the President, Barack Obama, George Bush Jr., Clinton, George Bush Sr., Reagan, you can go all the way back to Washington. They were the leader of the nation. They were responsible for the safety and the protection and the forward movement of the nation. They established government that led the nation, much like we should have government in our homes. Now, when we broke off from the British, we created a new system, a new way. In 1776, there was a document called the Declaration of Independence. Remember that?
Yes.
It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to serve these rights, governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that when any form of government is destructive to these ends, it is the will of the people to alter and to abolish it and to institute new government, laying it on such foundations that are secure for their safety and protection. So they created a document that says, if the current system that you're operating by does not work for the nation, you recreate a new form of government and laws that benefit the people. So as a family, where the Bible is final authority in our lives, we have a Declaration of Independence where we've set ourselves apart from the culture of the world, and when we step into our homes, we enter into a new jurisdiction governed by Scripture. So now the Bible becomes final authority in our lives. So, as it relates to a husband being the head of the home, a husband doesn't know everything. Just doesn't. Can't do everything. Just doesn't. So, like a president, he establishes what is called a committee. Right? He has advisors. He has a council. He has an administrative team that he's governed over different areas of the nation to govern the nation. So he has the Department of Defense, right? He has the Defense Ministry, whatever they call it. All of these people who are over different things: national policy, foreign policy, agriculture, energy, jobs, everything. He ultimately makes the decision, but he seeks the wisdom of others to help him formulate the best decision to govern the nation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So as it relates to your household, it is important, especially if you come into conflict, that you identify someone outside of yourself that has greater wisdom than you in a particular area, that you both as a couple can submit to their wisdom to govern your home. So as it relates to finances, we sought out Dave Ramsey, who has a phenomenal system, because the way she was handling finances, the way I was handling finances was just crazy. So we submitted to his wisdom to say, whatever he teaches us to do, we will do. As it relates to our marriage, Dr. Willard Harley was our person of choice, who is a marriage expert. We as a couple would submit to his wisdom and follow the principles that he teaches to apply to our marriage. And we did that in every area of our lives so that our marriage, living it by design, not by default, could move in a forward direction, experiencing the Fibonacci sequence that I put on the wall. So when you're entering into conflict and you can't seem to come up with any kind of concept of what to do, when you have an impasse in your relationship, the number one thing you can do is, as a couple, seek out a marriage mentor. Every married couple, whether you've been married for 30 plus years or one should seek out a marriage mentor. Because there's going to be someone else, another couple, that has certain things in their marriage that you're seeking, that you would like to implement into yours. And if you begin to partner up and have accountability with another couple, you can glean from it and your marriage can go to another level. Now, does that mean if I've been married for 35 years, I need to find somebody who's been married longer than us? Not necessarily, because a 35-year-old marriage may have become stale. It may need the passion of a 2-year marriage. And so a 35-year marriage can seek out in a 2-year marriage what they need for their marriage at that particular time. So you got to go where your answer is. The problem is we spend so much time hanging around people who represent our problems instead of seeking our solution.
Come on.
That's why I didn't hear that's all right. So these are the things that we have to begin to do in order for things to work out right. So let's go forward. Where are we at? All right, got that submission. All right, bam. So what we want to do is talk about implementing effective financial strategies in our marriage to make it work. Now let me give my principles, which are consistent, and then I'll bring them up so they can give some practical steps. So our philosophy is, when God brought us together, He brought us together to become one flesh.
And that's ironic. Our marriage ministry name is One Flesh.
Is that right? One flesh, one mind, one spirit, one mission, one direction. Now, yes, she has her own individuality. And what happens is a lot of times when you get married, you lose your sense of self, you lose your sense of identity and purpose. That's not what we're suggesting with the one flesh concept that we're talking about. Because I, as a husband, need her individuality and her own personal expression and her femininity to balance my masculinity. I need what she has to make me more of a complete person. She's not my competitor, she's my completer.
That's good.
You got that? But as it relates to every area of our lives, we are to come together to become one. So the principle of one is good, representing the individuality. So, how can we bring our individual expressions in line, submitting to something that is better? That's what we're ultimately talking about. So at this point, I want you to come up here. Because this is our couple, this is our cash couple right here. They both have expertise in finances, and we want them to share some practical principles, use the board, give it to us straight to be needed. Thank you.
First of all, my wife is much better at this than I am, so I'm going to talk a little bit and I'll turn it over to her. And then secondly, we're not as good as they are, so don't get your hopes up.
Switching back and forth.
We're not doing all that.
Yeah, we're not thinking.
I want to first kind of give you a little glimpse into me, so you can understand why I feel the way I do, and why when we got married, how we adopted this philosophy. Totally agree with him, with them that there's one pot, one flesh, one place to go. You heard earlier when I spoke, this is Boys in the Hood, Bill Cosby. And so I started work when I was 9, and I had a very strong sense of duty in terms of money. And welfare baby, all the above, had to manage your food stamps. You eat too much food by the middle of the month, you're not going to eat end of the month. So I had a different mentality growing up. And so the one thing I learned from watching my family and where we were is that, you can be poor and you can survive that, but you can't be poor and have poor habits. And that's the one thing my wife and I really and truly connect on. When we first got married, we were broke with everybody, just like everybody. We had a bunch of credit card debt, we had a bunch of bad habits, and we had to sit down and come to grips and say, okay, how are we going to fix this thing? So we were poor when we first got together, but by the time we brought it all, into one pot and started changing our habits, we were able to get out of it. So that's the one thing I would leave with you in terms of that. And then secondly, I think you got to have a vision for your money. That's the one thing people don't really do, I think. As accountants, we both are accountants, and we look at the financial world, and so we think differently. We think in terms of budgets. We think in terms of capital expenditures and what you're going to actually spend your money on, and we think of short-term, long-term goals Not everybody thinks like that. They see something I wanted, let's go get it. No, when it comes to money, you only got this much. When it comes to your desires, you got this much. Somehow you got to make the two meet. So in my role in this relationship is I try to sit down on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis and put together the vision. What do we need to have now? What do we need to have in 6 months? What do we need to have in 12 months? What do we need to have 10 years, 15 years? What do we need to have from our kids, our grandkids? There's got to be a vision, okay? And you got to start here before you can get here. And then the only other thing I would want to kind of say to you is it's a joint effort to manage a household. I like your example of the president. You got to run your house like a business, period. And whether you like it or not, you have limited resources and you have to manage those resources. So as a couple, you have to look at yourself and say, I'm the CEO, she's the CFO. Now let's look at how we're going to manage this budget, this monetary budget that we have. And that's what I want Gail to kind of draw out for you that we do. And we'll kind of talk through our system.
So one of the things that Pastor Luke mentioned last night was that you come into your marriage with baggage. Some of y'all got purses and trash, and you just bring all this stuff into marriage. You also come with financial baggage. We just happened to get married early, so we didn't come into it with too much, just because we were right out of college. Yeah, we had college debt, but it wasn't a lot of baggage. But for those couples that have gotten married later in life, you have your children that you're probably still supporting. You have debt that you're bringing into your marriage. And so it's kind of hard to come into that marriage and say, we're going to bring all this together, with my money, with your money, and we're going to figure out how to do this. That's hard. So the way we've done it is our money has always been together because we literally, when we graduated from college, made the exact same amount. He made 30, I made 30. So you might as well put it in the pot together because it's all the same. Now, as he has moved up the corporate ladder, I came down the